homecoming is the name of the game this week in the NBA. We've got a pair of them, big time ones. And Chris Paul, we're going to talk about going back to the Clippers here in a little bit. Like, that's the brand new NBA news. But of course, the biggest one, Damian Lillard, fresh off Milwaukee buyout, is going back to Portland. If you're watching the video stream, obviously you can see that Justin is not with me this week. But we do have Chris Crawford with us, who you've heard on the podcast before, Assistant Program Director at WSB in Atlanta, on air with CC on Twitter. We'll do the whole like full intro here in a little bit. But yeah, Damian Lillard, of course, with the Achilles injury, not going to play next year, but officially headed back to the Portland Trail Blazers, a homecoming deal. They already had the intro press conference and everything. And CC, like when Dame got bought out by Milwaukee, it kind of became the question of, is he going to go ring chase somewhere because he doesn't have one? And does he want to get that last shot at a championship? Or does he potentially go home? Something that I think he talked about a lot in Milwaukee, and said how much he wanted to be closer to family and how the distance there was a little bit harder on him. Clearly, we got that answer here. What do you think? How do you feel about the homecoming for Damian Lillard? I mean, obviously going to end his career now. I mean, already arguably the greatest trailblazer in franchise history, but now, with a little storybook ending to it as well.
I think he's always been a player who's kind of known what he is and what he wants and how he wants to play. Like, he's always seemed within himself all the time, right? Like, it's never been like questioning of if Dame is able to get the job done. It's just a matter of like, is he ever going to be surrounded with enough players to succeed doing it?
Right.
And it felt like there was a chance with this Milwaukee team, but it also felt like a weird kind of throw stuff at the wall in hopes it sticks together sort of building of a team. And then the injury is just so unfortunate for him. So, obviously then you don't know what happens after that, because it doesn't seem like Milwaukee has room for him or has plans in the future for him. And sure enough, they buy him out. I like that he went home. I do. Like, I think it is perfect for him and who he's always been, in the way that he knows what he wants and knows what he's going to do. And, like I said, he's always kind of been centered and just about it. And the fact that he didn't want to go ring chase when you saw, and you mentioned Chris Paul going back to the Clippers, Bradley Beal's there. Like, it seems every veteran, when they get an opportunity to go play with the team that has an opportunity to win, they take advantage of it 10 out of 10 times, it seems, more often than not. You rarely see a guy who, we don't know what kind of player he'll be when he comes back from the injury, but of Dame's caliber, go back to a team and a franchise that's in a position of Portland to play out his career. Like it felt like kind of when Chris Paul went to the Spurs last year, but then of course he completely undid that when he then goes back to the Clippers again. But again, we'll talk about that later. It's very interesting because the Celtics were the team that everyone was rumored that he was going to go to. So you want to talk about him being far away from his family, that would be as far away as humanly possible, but also would have been a great chance for him to get that ring. So clearly maybe he just wanted to be happy and at home, which I'm never going to blame the guy for that. And Portland's going to love him forever. He's going to get his jersey retired probably the year after he retires, or they'll do it during his final season with them because of how much he's meant to that team and that franchise.
Yeah, he'll get a super farewell tour, at least there, if nothing else, obviously. The Boston fit would have made a ton of sense. Of course, that becomes up in the air too when Tatum goes down with the Achilles injury. I mean, that, that window does look radically different now with some of the older guys being out, now with JT missing the year. You wondered if he would go east, but again, like you said, the guy just likes being home. That's always been kind of his brand, is that he's a really family oriented guy. I believe him when it was hard that he said it would being in Milwaukee and being away. And like, he already in the intro press conference, like he's gonna be able to like drive his kids to school and stuff. And like, like you say, he's 37 years old. Like Damian Lillard, you're right. Who knows what he's going to look like when he comes back from the Achilles injury? I don't think obviously it's going to be Mr. Dame time that we've seen here over the past few years, but I think either way, like he's going to be a great bet in that locker room. I think that goes without saying. Chauncey Billups is already joking that he's going to be assistant coaching next year. So like, you get a taste of that while you're on the sideline. The only thing that is interesting is that I just, as you put a cap on that Milwaukee tenure, and, we talked about it a little bit with him getting bought out, but I'm surprised still that didn't work. I think the writing has been on the wall there now, especially last season. And I think in a way, Milwaukee just kind of made like panic, like the Kuzma trade. I go back to that where it was just like that was such a bad move. And that was so bad on its face at the time too, where it's like, well, yeah, this team really wasn't put in the best position to succeed because you would look at their like you'd get their box score and like you would get what you need out of Dame and Giannis every night, but it felt like the rest of the roster wasn't there. But I'm not gonna lie though, like even with Dame and Giannis, like it felt like they never got on the same page the first go around when he got traded there. And I'm just surprised because that to me still feels like a combo. Like that pick and roll should have been unstoppable. And it wasn't. Like instead they were always just kind of a mediocre squad in the East. And like I know Chris Middleton towards the end of his tenure there obviously was dealing with a lot of injury issues and it was a different feel from when they had Drew Holiday, but that's just always going to be kind of a weird what if to me where like I truly felt like that should have worked so much better than it actually did.
I think part of the issue is that Giannis had spent the majority of his time playing with the premier guards that he played with, whereas you said Drew Holiday and Middleton to an extent is a small forward, but could kind of slide into a two if need be. But neither one has the offensive abilities that Dame has.
Right.
Middleton was closest in the sense of it, but I don't think people appreciate Damian Lillard's offensive abilities and his 3-point shooting as much as they should. Like if not for Steph, I think that we would be talking about his 3-point abilities in a much higher light than people do. Like I hated it when announcers would say when he shot a 3, they'd say, "Oh, it's from Steph range," and it's like, no, like Dame, that's Dame range. Like he's had that range. It's no one else. Like so I think that might have just been hard for Giannis to adjust to, is having a player that he didn't necessarily have to lean on or have to pick up the slack for, I guess, in a sense. Like I feel like he just had to do so much more with Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton because they were good but not great. And Middleton was, I guess you could say, great for a couple of years, but Dame has been phenomenal forever. And that's, Drew Holiday is a great defensive player, but offense has been pretty average since he left Philly, sort of thing. So I just think that it was hard for him to adjust to that playing style with somebody as good as Dame. Like they needed more time for that to have worked, I think.
Yeah, and unfortunately they'll never get it. I mean, the Achilles certainly, sealed the deal there. And it's quite unprecedented. I mean, Milwaukee's going to be paying their books. It's going to be, $20+ million of dead money every year. And they essentially did it so that they could, obviously make the move for Miles Turner, who, I like Miles. Miles is a good pickup for them. It's still so crazy to me to think about just because of how that rivalry is. Like,
so
he's Mr.
Weird.
Pacer. He
so
was just
weird.
in the finals. Like
it was like when Johnny Damon went to the Yankees.
Yeah, I mean, straight up,
weird.
Like it is
that.
Why?
How does that make sense?
Yeah, and I mean, look, like I know the situation in Indy, again, the theme of the NBA the last few weeks is like that situation radically changed when Halliburton's Achilles went down. Like that, the contention window for Indy that may have been open for another year or two does kind of close for a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it's still either way, like Miles Turner essentially to me is what they had with Brook Lopez, right? Like, I don't think there's a huge trade-off there. Now Brook is going to the Clippers, who again, we'll talk about a little bit later, but it's just the Bucks remain in a weird spot. And I know they're at this point trying to do anything to appease Giannis and not pull the trigger there. But like, it's getting to a point with me where it almost may be, as insane as this sounds, beneficial for that franchise to trade Giannis because you're going to get such an absurd haul for it back. I mean, we're talking like it's an unprecedented haul for Giannis. I feel like right now in his prime, the player he is.
I thought that's what was going to happen.
Yeah,
I thought that, and maybe it still will, but I was expecting that to happen.
I thought it was going to fall before KD. Like that was the thing is we were teeing these moves up. Like I really thought Giannis was going to ask out. Like it seemed like he wasn't happy then too about the Dame buyout initially when it happened. So that was one of those things as well. I don't know. It's an awkward situation, but I do feel like they're just doing this dance. And I feel like everyone is just not ready to break up with each other, but they both know deep down that like it's over. Like, and that's the thing is like, I don't even feel like there's going to be bitterness from one side. Like, I feel like everyone is very aware of what it is. You can't consider it a failure. I mean, Giannis and they won their title. Like they won the first title since the 70s. You can never consider the run a failure just off that. But I don't think like you're not going to win in his prime without some radical shakeup of the roster. And I just don't know how that happens given their current cap situation.
How long do you think it took Miles Turner to move all his Legos?
Oh my God. He had
And like,
to
how do
hire
you
a
think he
truck just
did
for
it?
that.
You know?
You can't disassemble them, right? Like some
No,
of those are
no.
thousands of pieces.
Yeah.
And God forbid one gets lost in transition. Like I know it's not that far from Indy to Milwaukee, but like that's still what? That's gotta be, I mean, my Midwest people gotta help me out here, but that's gotta be like 6-7 hours at least. I either
Real
way.
geography guy, not me.
You get some traffic in Chicago, like you can swoop up the lake. Like that's the thing, is it's just like a little like fish hook, like a J almost, where
Yeah.
without the top like horizontal line. Yeah, either way, but yeah, there that just needs to happen. I mean, it felt like again, because it didn't. That was when the KD situation started to play. Because I think a lot of the teams that were in play for Kevin Durant would have also been in play for Giannis. Like you have to be able to offer, quite a haul for that. Though I still again, good for Houston, man. Great haul for KD. I still love that move for them so much.
Yeah.
But either way, and I mean, yeah, for Portland, like Portland quietly was on something at the end of last season. Like I'm not ready to say they're taking the leap quite yet, but um it felt like they were getting it together a little bit. Like they were starting to be competitive where they're, in the previous year, they were just fully in the lottery. They got a few good young players there. Obviously, it's going to be interesting to see what Scoot does. I think that's really the big key is like, can he develop? They traded Anthony Simons, so that's a little bit of a big shakeup there. We'll still see what happens. What they end up doing with the Drew Holiday situation as well, like whether they end up moving him. I don't know. Like, do you have any? Of course, they have Chinese Jokic now too. So
Yeah, I was just gonna wait, and I was just gonna say, well, we'll talk about summer league later because I'm in love with that man.
yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I kind of like because it's just such an outlandish comment. Like immediately when I hear that, I'm like, Chinese Jokic, are you kidding me? Like, what are
Yeah,
we
that's
talking about
yeah.
right now? Again, we'll get into it. He's kind of electric in summer league. I'm not gonna lie. Like I'm a little you have me intrigued a little bit here. Hopefully, we have you intrigued on the Drive and Dish NBA podcast. Welcome everybody. My name is Kevin Rafuse. Justin Cousart, again, my co-host on family vacation. He'll be back next week. In the meantime, pinch hitting though, and yes, I am saying that on purpose since he got the Toronto Blue Jays shirt on. Chris Crawford, again, assistant program director at WSB Radio in Atlanta, on air with CC at Twitter. I almost said, yeah, on Twitter, at Twitter, on air with CC, though, is where you'll follow him. Leave us a review on iTunes, good or bad. I'll read them on the podcast. If you're not an Apple user, Google Play Store, Spreaker, Spotify, TuneIn, Amazon Music, Player FM, anywhere you can find your podcast, you can find us. Watch the video version as well. Search Drive and Dish NBA podcast on YouTube, and you can hit subscribe and see the video form as well. Now, word from our sponsors. All right, so we talked about it a little bit in the intro. Quick mention, of course, the Clippers with Chris Paul. That's kind of the big news, freshest news, as we should say, going into this episode. Officially headed home for his 21st NBA season, which, to the surprise of no one, he had been kind of I think it was in an interview with Jamel Hill. I forget what show he was on, but he had kind of hinted that this was going to be his last season, and now officially confirming that as he's headed back with the Clippers. Of course, the other big piece of Clippers news as well, Bradley Beal officially brought out with Phoenix. He's headed to the Clippers. So again, Harden, Beal, Kawhi, now the whole gang is back together. Like Chris Paul, it would have been insane to think about 6 or 7 years ago. Again, these guys a little bit older now, but Clippers team that was good last year, like who had a healthy Kawhi. And for Chris Paul, a bit symbolic as well, obviously playing I think the majority of his meaningful NBA career with the Clippers. That feels a slight disrespectful to the Hornets and the Rockets a little bit. Well, the closest he ever was to win, well, and Phoenix even. I mean, he made the finals in Phoenix, so like you can't really rule that out either. But either way, though, yeah, for most. So wait a minute. So like, what do you think? Like, what was the deal with him in San Antonio? Like, obviously, because I thought, the attraction there was going to play with Wemby, and I think giving him the true point guard, they clearly were in need for that. But like real quick before we get into the Clippers, like what's your read on that? Like, do you think that this is again just a thing with him going home, or like did it just not really work?
I think part of it was that he really wanted to play for Pop.
Yeah, and then obviously,
and I think
unfortunately,
when that kind of changed, and I think that he kind of saw with De'Aaron Fox coming in too, that it was like, you know what, my role isn't necessarily needed in the way that it would have been in the way I could have done it with Pop. So I don't think it was necessarily like he didn't like his time there or went south in any way. Like you never heard of that. It didn't look like that when he played even late in the season when Wemby went down. Like he was still being, Chris Paul, leader on the floor, like talking to guys and, doing his thing. So I think a lot of it was just the fact that he really wanted to play with Pop. And then unfortunately.
Yeah, that's obviously way out of his hands there. But all right, let's go back to the Clippers. So, of course, again, we mentioned the usual cast of characters there. Of course, Ty Lue is there. Brook Lopez is now in the mix as well. Backing up Zubac, who had a phenomenal season last year, best season in his career so far. A lot of guys who like my guy Nick Batum is there. Look, I mean, the big loss for them so far this season has been Norm Powell. And now it's a move that was just a little surprising just because of how great, obviously, like, Norm's been good, but like he was phenomenal last year. I mean, all-star level. And I think that's a situation where they, maybe get out just ahead of paying him a little bit. But I mean, where does this team stack up in the West to you? Because like, it feels like at this point, shoot, 6 of the 7 best teams are out West, and certainly everybody is reloaded again in this offseason. A Clippers team that, finished in the middle of the pack last year, but was quite good, especially at the end of the year, like really digging themselves out of that playing position. Like, how do you feel about this team as it stacks up next year?
I would say the word that comes to mind is intriguing.
Yeah.
And I'm only really interested because it feels like a bunch of guys outside of Kawhi, really, who've, and I guess Brook Lopez too, but a lot of old guys who just never won and just really want to win. And I think that'll be a very strong motivator for these guys, and I especially think all of the slander that Bradley Beal's been catching this year and after this past season, I think he's going to come back wanting to prove everyone that he still can be, a solid NBA player and a consistent NBA player. So I'm intrigued as to what they're going to look like. And I mean, I watched a lot of Chris Paul last year. He still is Chris Paul. He can still see the floor better than most point guards, if not all point guards out there. And he's a good leader. And I think it's going to be it's either going to be boom or bust type situation with him. I think that if everything comes together, they could be a very dangerous team, but also everything could fall flat on its face and they could just be miserable.
Yeah, I mean, look, we know what it is. Like, it all comes down to Kawhi. Like, it's Kawhi is the ceiling. If Kawhi is healthy and looks like he does last year, like, yeah, you could talk me to them, ceiling is unlimited. If these guys are motivated, like you said, the roster kind of fits. You still got Bogdanovich who can give you good minutes off the bench there. Your boy Chris Dunn has given them a bunch of good defensive minutes here in the last few years. Yeah, you're right. It feels like there's that motivation. It is a comically old roster. I mean, more than half of this roster is over 28, 29 years old, which again, in a league that continually gets younger, that is kind of an alarming stat when you look at it. So there is a lot of risk with that. And the injury wise, like, again, it's not just, I mean, it's all these guys you mentioned. Like Kawhi is obviously gets the most of it, and we know that. But it's like Harden's dealt with injuries, even though he's pretty healthy last year. Still dealt with injuries over his career. Bradley Beal has missed significant amounts of time with injury.
Chris Dunn,
right? Like
you mentioned, Chris Dunn also a role player, but like still he has missed a ton of time in his NBA career. It's what has caused his NBA career to not get to where he is now because of injuries all over.
I want to see they picked up John Collins, and so he's kind of been like, I mean, he's been Utah. He just hasn't been playing meaningful basketball really the last few years, and I want to see him kind of again in a situation.
He's also an injury guy.
Yeah, I mean, kind of. Yeah, I mean, I think he's been. That feels like a more of a like early season type thing. I mean, let me triple check to make sure I'm not going crazy. He has
never played a full season in his career. 74.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, 40 games last year, actually. Yeah, 40. I mean, I gotta be honest. I can't say I was watching a ton of Utah, but yeah, 40 for sure. 68 the year before, 71 the year before. So that's a little better. But
he averages 59 games a season.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, that's definitely fair. He's been good in the playoffs when he's been healthy. Again,
when he's healthy, he's good and exciting. But again, I guess it's another guy. I didn't even think about him. But yeah.
But I mean, Derek Jones Jr. is 28, Zubac is 28, John Collins 27. Everybody else is basically like 30 and up, 30s, really.
Yeah. So yeah, it's intriguing to me. I'm intrigued.
Yeah, and I mean, again, it's one of these things where, and again, you put this team in the Eastern Conference, I think they might be the favorite, honestly. Like I look around and I go, yeah,
Yeah.
you know what? Even just the way it breaks out, maybe you go the Knicks are better, but besides that, and I don't even guarantee that, given how the Clippers finished last year, um, Bradley Beal is going to give up his number 3 to Chris Paul, which is very kind of him, as he should, given that Chris Paul is going back to the Clippers. I feel like there should be some more priority there. But yeah, I mean, again, look around, and I mean that gets back to my point is like, how do you stack this West? So like OKC defending champs, I think that goes without saying. But then I know for me, Houston post KD trade, I think that roster just makes so much sense. I think Denver, I really like what Denver's done and how they've kind of reloaded. I loved getting out of the Porter deal low key and going out and getting Cam Johnson. Like, I just think that was really savvy of them. Like, that's where you can kind of start to like talk me into everybody else, right? Like, you look at the Clippers, you look at the Lakers, you look at, I mean, how do you stack these teams up, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to have OKC at the top slot just because they're
You got
the
respect for the champions.
defending
Yeah, you
champs.
can't
Yeah,
take
you gotta put that there. And then um I have to agree with you. The Rockets being right up there is probably would be too, just because they were there last year and they only got better, in my opinion, with the moves that they made. Um, I don't see the Lakers. I don't know. Like the Lakers are such an interesting team, and they played so well at the end of the year last year. I just it's is LeBron going to be there? Because there's all the rumors that he might not.
Yeah.
So like I don't know. And when there's those kind of rumors going into the season, like how well are they going to be playing and how well is it going to translate on the floor? I like the Denver Nuggets to have more of a better year this next season than they did last year. I think
Yeah.
that they needed a bit of a shakeup, and I think they got it. And I think that we'll see a much better team next year. And I would probably say those are where, like after that, even it's hard to put any team in that range with those 4 teams. I think that the Clippers could be frisky in that sense. The Timberwolves could be frisky, and the Spurs, I think, could be frisky in the sense of it as well.
Well, so the Timberwolves are the one team that I was going to say that we haven't mentioned yet. Which again, back-to-back conference finals appearances. We probably should mention them, but yeah, I mean, it just I don't think they really got better. Like they brought their guys back, so like yeah, you got Randall back. Reed is locked up and happy, which you're thrilled about. But like I don't know, you lost Alexander Walker. He was a really good depth guy for them.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Conley continues to get older. It just feels like it's a lot of ant heavy lifting right now.
Yep.
And again, where I just like I look around and it feels like most of these teams got better, and it's just like Minnesota's kind of running in place. Like you're going to give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, but I don't know. The only roster that maybe in terms of like the Clippers with age is Golden State. I mean, with Jimmy, with Steph, with Draymond. I mean, if they go out and sign Al Horford, like again, they're kind of in that same boat where it's like, no, they're going all in on the older savvy vets too. But yeah, I mean, Dallas would be more if they Dallas Cooper is intriguing, but it's like you need Kyrie. Like if they had Kyrie, you might be, Cooper, Kyrie, AD, we might be talking about something. But I don't know about without Kyrie, you're still kind of there. Memphis now post Desmond Bain, that's going to be real interesting. But you got to feel like they take a step back in the immediacy, and you're worried about Ja Morant injuries there as well. So I mean, I don't know. Like I feel like I mean, Phoenix obviously post trade takes a big step back. We don't know about that. I mean, your Spurs you guys have to make the playoffs this year. Like, there's no excuses not to make the playoffs for this roster, right? Like, what do you think?
I mean,
what
unless,
is your
unless,
worst
unless
case?
some injuries happen again. That's
Right,
worst
like,
case scenarios when he gets hurt again.
Yeah, right. So
but
outside of a Wemby scenario, like what's your realistic ceiling for this team? But what's your like what are you realistically happy with too? So like I guess is a 7-8 spot, like is a play-in spot. Are you happy with that? Does that satisfy you, or do you feel like this team should crack the top 6?
I'd be fine with like a 7 or 8 spot. They were on track for the play-in last season before Wemby got hurt, and maybe even better than that. And I think that adding De'Aaron Fox and having the whole season, and I mean, I look at the guards. We'll talk about summer league, but like David Jones, Garcia, and Carter Bryant looked awesome. For the Spurs in summer league, like it's just an embarrassment of guard riches for this team right now, and that it's not even talking about Dylan Harper yet. So like, I think that the depth that they have and the players that they have on this roster, they could, like, I would put their ceiling at maybe like the 4 seed.
Okay, I love the Homer hat there. That's real good for you, CC. I'm not there yet. I mean, I appreciate it. Like if Wemby takes the leap and really like becomes world destroyer already, then I think sure, then the sky's the limit. There's just no planet where I can put them over Denver, Houston, OKC, or like even the Clippers right now, honestly. Like I'm there, Minnesota as well. But yeah, I mean, just off, like I said, I think Memphis is going to get worse. I think Sacramento is going to get worse. And so at that point alone, like they should be able to take one of those two spots. What do the Warriors do in terms of their age? Like injuries wise there, you got to keep an eye on them. Again, Dallas, not quite at full strength, but should be competitive. And there's nobody else really that's below them that you think is going to make the leap like that. Like Utah still has a long way to go. They're building the roster. The Pelicans, I'm not remotely thrilled about the moves they made this offseason. It feels like they made some of the most questionable ones. And, we talk about all the injury risk. They still got the league's biggest, arguably, with Zion. Yeah, I mean, Portland, like we said, is nice, but I'm not having Portland take the leap over San Antonio, like not post De'Aaron Fox move. So, yeah, I feel like they have to finish top 10. Like we need to start. I feel like there need to start being some discussions if they can't crack the top 10 this year, even in a Western Conference, and be like, what are we doing here, guys?
Again, I mean, they're only 5 games out of it this year, and they didn't have Wemby for the entire second half of the season. Like this was a team that was playing 500 ball and could have very easily would have put them in that 9 slot above the Sacramento Kings if they finished the season at a 500 record, which is why I think that 7 or 8 is realistic in their, where they are right now. But I do think that if everything went perfect, they could compete for a higher seed.
Are you happy about them? Like they were obviously in the rumors with the number 2 pick, of course, with Dylan Harper coming in. They were the teams that were mentioned in all the big name free agency. Like when we were talking about Giannis watch, we were talking about Kevin Durant being potentially available. Like San Antonio was always one of those like teams that was mentioned and that actually could like put together a package for a type of player like that and make a realistic fair offer. Are you kind of happy? Like where do you stand with them? Like pushing the chips in versus being patient.
I'm good. I'm good with them kind of being patient with what they have and where they are on their roster. Like Wemby's great and De'Aaron Fox is great, but the surrounding pieces are nowhere near where they would need to be to bring in a guy like Kevin Durant and be able to compete at the expectations in which everyone would then have. I would still think that team would be around maybe a 6 seed. Then maybe they could even have a better chance at a 5, but I don't think that adding Kevin Durant and what we would have had to trade away would have necessarily balanced things out in a way where they would have been this world-beating team that I think people thought they would be with a De'Aaron Fox, Kevin Durant, and Wemby big 3. But I think that looking at the players that they've drafted, it's so deep. The team is so deep. They've got so many good players that I just think that why hemorrhage that very promising looking future by trading away some of those pieces? Let's put all these young guys together, and eventually you can use some of these young guys to go and get the pieces that you need, not necessarily want, when you get to the trade deadline this season.
Do you think would that have changed your mind if it was Giannis?
No, Giannis was actually what I didn't want Giannis because it would have destroyed our cap for the rest of time. Like we would have been over that second apron. We would have just been in cap hell immediately between De'Aaron Fox's contract, his contract, and what we'd have to pay Wemby. Like somebody on Reddit broke down all the math that I can't remember off the top of my head, but we would literally not be able to sign free agents within 3 years if we had done that. Or not even 3, like 2 years. And like it would have completely obliterated the window in the sense of Vic. So no, I'm Durant was the one that I was interested in, but I feel like deep down I didn't want it, and I think I still feel that way now that I'm good with where we are. And I think I would have been more upset and anxious had we gone in and traded a bunch of assets and draft picks for Durant.
See, that's funny. I feel the exact opposite where I'm like, Giannis, I feel like you just move heaven and earth for. Like he's such a special player that I think you figure it out. And I think you go, hey, maybe we win in those 2 years and that's enough. And then I don't know, somebody smarter will be able to figure out the books and get that to work. Though I agree, obviously much more difficult in the second apron era. KD, I'm with you. Like, only because too, just like, KD's what, 37 now at this point? Like, the Spurs, even with KD, you're right, I don't think are ready to win the title this year. I feel the exact opposite about Houston. Houston with KD, given the foundation that was already there, I'm like, no, that team is like ready to win the title next year potentially. Where you're right, with the Spurs, it would have felt like they're a step away. And with KD again, keep beating the drum, injury history, like that is completely valid. And it just would have been, you're right. It would have felt premature. Like, why not let, you have the number 2 pick, like let Dylan Harper develop. De'Aaron Fox fits the timeline with Wemby a little bit more. Like, just
and
go with depth.
The Spurs aren't in this to buy 2 championships. Like that's not how their organization has or ever will be run, in my opinion. I think that they're a franchise that wants to win in a longevity kind of form. They want to go back to the years of when they had Duncan and Manu and Tony and won 5 championships in a over 3 decade span. Like that's what's made them incredible. So I think the front office, I think everyone has the same vision with this franchise, which is we just got our unicorn again in Wemby. We now get the 2nd overall pick and get this kid Dylan Harper, who's an absolute stud. We just traded for De'Aaron Fox. Like, we're already further along as far as what we have roster wise, depth wise, everything wise than we were when we started with Timmy and David Robinson.
Yeah, Timmy's just such a unicorn though. And like, I mean, David was already like way more, I mean, that, like, he was just way better than De'Aaron Fox is. Like, I like De'Aaron Fox, but like David Robinson is David Robinson. Like,
yeah, oh no, I agree. But I mean, that's, you didn't have a Dylan Harper.
No, for sure. And I mean, that infusion matter. I'll ask you, I'm curious about this. This isn't just a Spurs thing, but this is more of like a league-wide thing. Because like, I think the one thing with the NBA, especially at the end of the season, like you look at the finals, you look at OKC, you look at Indy, and just the tremendous amounts of depth that they had. Like, we're talking 8, 9 players deep in a league that we know it's traditionally in the past. Like, it's been try to go out and get your big 3 and just figure it out, like, and let everybody else, you just fill in the roster with 2-way guys and with vets on buyout contracts and like, right. So, right. And then, so you move on and, now you start to see that fade a little bit where they're kind of going to this team building model, but you also have teams kind of pushing in a little bit too, because we see, the parity is there now. We've had different champions every year now for, going on since 2019. We've had a different champion every year. Do you think that, I guess, because I'm with you, like building the longevity model is the way to go, but in a way, like, do you think the second apron has almost made that impossible just because when you have 3 to 4, elite young guys. I mean, even looking at OKC already, like we talked about this last week, but it's like OKC just won the championship. You paid SGA, you paid Jalen, you paid Chet. We already got to start talking about who they're getting rid of now. It's like they truly cannot afford to keep this roster together. I guess, do you feel like has that shifted now? Is it impossible to do that?
I wouldn't say impossible, because I think you'll get like older vets in the situation like we kind of had this summer that will take less to go get an opportunity to win at certain places, which will allow for the super team to still exist in the sense of it. But I also think that with, teams like the Toronto Raptors, well, yes, they did trade for Kawhi. The majority of that team that they had built was a homegrown roster. And then what OKC did, and you look at kind of how Cleveland has built their roster, yes, they, again, brought in Donovan Mitchell, but the rest of that roster is a homegrown roster. You're
not putting them in this category with these other teams you're talking about, though. I'm just saying that I'm sick of this core, man. They've let me down too many times now. I'm not giving them any slack after that. I said all season long going into last year that I'm not buying in on Cleveland until just like I see them win something in the playoffs. And you know what? I'm so mad because I went against my gut and I bought in on Cleveland because they won all those regular season games and because I like Kenny Atkinson a lot as a coach. And gosh darn it, they let me down again, and I'm sick of it. I'm not giving Cleveland any bet. I'm on Cleveland's neck until they win something meaningful in the playoffs.
I feel like the Portland Trailblazers when it was Aldridge, CJ McCollum, and Dame.
The Portland they got to the conference finals though, at least. Like Dame was in the conference finals the one year, and they lost the Warriors. I'm not gonna at least give them, who's beating the Warriors those years. And so that's kind of my thing where I'll give him a little bit of slack. Like, I don't know. I'm just this Cleveland
how many years it took Jennifer begging for them to win to finally get a playoff.
Donovan Mitchell needs to be thankful that Joel Embiid is in this conference and that he's taking all the heat for not getting past the second round right now. I think people will be having Donovan Mitchell conversations too right now because that Cleveland core has disappointed me for 3-4 straight years. Like we gotta I'm just like, and now especially the East is so wide open, but I cannot give them any credit until I see them win meaningful, because it's not even like they lost to Indy this year. They got dog walked by Indy this year.
Yeah.
You should not have been getting crushed by the Indiana Pacers like that. And that's not even a shot at the Pacers. It's that you're not supposed to be that far off from them where they're beating you in 5 games.
Yeah, the Pacers were just really good though in the playoffs. Like
They
it's
are.
hard to,
Yeah.
it's they were on a tear, but I think that and my bottom line is that I think that you see a lot of these smaller market teams that have built success through just building it slowly, and while it may not happen overnight, I think teams are kind of looking around being like, oh, we don't necessarily have to try to compete with these guys in this free agent market and spend a ton of money on one guy and then not be able to get the rest of our team put together. Like we can build our team and be patient and wait and try to find that right player to bring in if we even need to bring that player in.
Or you just even with like Boston, because a lot of these teams you mentioned, you're right, it's all homegrown. Like Denver's core was all homegrown, and Golden State's homegrown, of course, we know going way back is homegrown. And like the kind of the middle ground balance almost, I feel like, is Boston. So like Boston, you of course JB and JT are both homegrown, and that's your core, and that is the foundation. But it was also with Boston, it's not even like they were taking the home run swing necessarily. It's like you trade for the savvy vets, like the role guys who just complement the roster. Like it was getting Porzingis and getting Drew and bringing out Horford back, and like that was with Derek White, like going out and looking for a guy who just obviously a great player just in a situation that doesn't fit right this second. Like that's how they were winning. That's the alternative method to me. But yeah, I mean, you're right. You have to draft well. Like that's the only way you can compete in today's NBA because of that. Like you can't afford to keep everybody. Yeah, it's just one of those situations. Like that is the rule on the apron right now. It really has put more financial pressure on these guys than ever before, and it makes you really have to weigh your conversations. Like one injury can shake. I mean, look at Indy. Indy, we were talking about, like, if Hallie's not hurt, I'm absolutely going into the second apron for this roster. How can you not go into the second apron?
Yeah.
But like that really does make you make those decisions now that are tough.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was, I was saying it during it. It felt like Indy, even if Halliburton didn't get hurt, I did feel like that was their kind of lightning in a bottle kind of season, where like they wouldn't be able to have repeated that unless they went out and went all in on that roster. Like that was not a conference finals or an NBA finals roster in the sense of it, just looking at it. They just, like, as we said, they were just on an incredible, they got hot at the end of the year. They were one of the best teams going in the playoffs. And then
they were in the conference finals the year before. We got pushed back.
And they were in the conference finals the year before too, but it still didn't feel like they were, I didn't buy them as conference finals.
No, there's a reason that there's a reason they were the underdog. They don't have that like one guy, because even with Hallie, because he facilitates so much, it didn't feel like they had that one guy. Now they clearly do have that one guy, like Hallie, an all-time NBA. But you're right. I mean, it felt like this was Indy's best shot to win with this group. Just everything was coming together at the right time.
Buzzer beater, game-winning shot. Like that doesn't happen in a playoff run ever.
Well, that's why. And again, like, we don't need to just keep bringing it up, because I feel like I've been saying it a bunch on the pod since it's ended. But like, yeah, that just, like, again, the icing on the cake for what made that Hallie injury so brutal is it's like, just like, let the game be played, man. Let it go out fair. Yeah. But it's like, and again, starts the game 3 for 4. You can't tell me he wasn't going to have a heater. They still might have lost the game. Like, that's what I don't ever want to sound like I'm taking away from OKC. Like, OKC is a super worthy champion, but like, I hate what ifs, and especially when they're injury what ifs. Like, I just want to, and in a 7-gamer all timer like that, like, you just deserve to have it not end like that. And that was just, it's so damn unfortunate.
Yeah. And like I said, I think that I still think that they weren't necessarily going to be that type of team every year, but I agree with what you said, where it did feel like that was a team that would have gone all in on going over that second apron to go and try and land that guy that could take them back to the conference finals for a third straight year and hopefully NBA finals again.
Oh, and I think you feel it too with them, because it's like, I mean, they haven't won a championship before, and you have seen some teams like really start to break that recently, where it's like, the Bucks, it wasn't their first, but like the Bucks, their first championship in 50 years, basically. Like, you had to go all the way back to Kareem before it was Kareem to when the Bucks won before that. You see Denver put their first one on the board a few years ago. OKC now putting their first one on the board in OKC. So yeah, I mean, I think there's that win.
And you see teams that get so close to winning and then come back the next year and are like hungry just to get, you know, like they have a different mentality because of how close they were.
Yeah.
And if they were able to bring somebody else in to help them get to that, I think they could have had a good year. But I don't know, the makeup of that team, it really felt like lightning in a bottle for them.
It's just hard to get back to. And I mean, that's the thing just learn about
Not yet,
sports
as
is
you
like,
said.
even, I mean, it's really, and the NBA has been more dynastic than other sports, I think, in the past. Though, God, again, ironically, it hasn't been recently. But like, yeah, you learn as an, like, that's one of the bummers about being an adult sports fan compared to when you're a kid, right? Like, when you're a kid, you see your favorite team lose in the playoffs and you go, oh yeah, they'll definitely be back. Like they'll 100%, that'll happen again. And as an adult, you realize you're like, no, that might not actually. Like there's a good chance, like, you know, we could be the Chicago Cubs and go 100+ years without winning a World Series. Like I mean, how many NBA teams haven't won finals ever? Like, and haven't really been close since then. They've had a few, you know, multiple teams have been in the finals and then haven't got that chance again. Like, it's tough. Like you gotta appreciate it while it's there. I mean, that's one. I mean, again, I gotta get my Super Bowl reference in a show, but it's like that's why, you know, listen, we got our shot again against the Chiefs. That's so rare in itself that you even get that second chance to be able to then to go out and make it happen. Definitely a good look there. But you know, speaking of one of those franchises in search of their first titles is the Charlotte Hornets.
No, they just got it.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Like we're on the board. We can at least put something in the trophy case, which by the way, shout out to like the NBA. These guys are getting summer league rings now or so wow. I think of Lackworth's Bangwitch. Gotta love that. But these guys are getting the summer league rings now, like which is cool because obviously a lot of these guys don't make NBA rosters. So I do think that that's pretty cool to have something with it. But like there's a real trophy and everything, but like dude, that did bring a little pain to my heart when like the Hornets won Summer League. And again, congrats to the Hornets Summer League squad for bringing it home in Vegas. When they said that was the franchise's first trophy of anything, I was like, oh my God, that just like
it's gotta hurt. I don't put that
hurts.
trophy. You don't put that trophy up. You don't put that trophy in a case or something, right?
You put it in a case.
Until you win an actual. Yeah, no, like until I don't even put it in a case. I think until you win, maybe like the coach gets it. Whoever coached that summer league team gets to keep it.
You got a practice facility. You got to fill those cases up. Those cases are big, man. You know how they go.
No, you can't put that in there until you win a championship. That's so there's no way. It would be it's like when the Colts hung the we made it to the AFC championship game banner.
What if they win the in-season tournament first? You put that up?
See, yeah, then you can do it. Yes. So if they win the in-season tournament, you can put yes, because that's regular season. People seem to care a little bit more about that. I'll give you, if your first trophy is the summer league or the in-season tournament trophy, I'm okay with putting that in the trophy case.
All right. I mean, that's, yeah, like you said, real games, they're a little bit, we don't need to have an NBA Cup discussion. We'll have plenty of time to talk about that. I just want to start a little later. Like, that's what it all comes out. It starts way too early for me. And no one understands the format. But I think you can make people understand the format. I don't think, but not have the third game of the season be an NBA Cup game that has, by the way, massive ramifications in how this seeding plays out. So it's kind of unfortunate. But yeah, anyway, shout out to the Hornets getting it done in Summer League, officially wrapped up. So we are in the dog days of NBA summer officially. I guess any big moments that stood out to you from Summer League this year?
Well, shout out Josh Odoro, former Friar, Summer League champion. He can put the trophy somewhere if he wants. That's cool. I'm fine with that because he's a Friar. Con Knipple really surprised me. I'm going to be honest. I wasn't sure how his game would translate in the NBA, but it looks like there's something there that he might be able to compete a little bit. And Liam McNeely also looked really good for the Hornets. And I was kind of impressed by both of them. And then, I think that we talked briefly about it, but Yang Hansen, the Portland Trailblazer center, is awesome. I'm in love with him. He looks incredible. And I could watch him play basketball all day long. And of course, naturally, shout out Devin Carter, who was awesome for the Kings in his second season with them. Also a former Friar. He's going to be great. I love him.
Yeah, they need some Devin Carter, kind of a rough rookie year. They need him to kind of break out here in year 2 in Sacramento. That'd be a nice little development for them.
He was hurt for the first half of the year. He didn't play his first games until like January because of a shoulder injury. So he had to come back from the shoulder injury and get back. So this is a new season for him, and I'm excited for how good he's going to be. I also did love the Spurs guards, but I mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, all of the Kings fans hope you're right there. I was glad to see that VJ Edgecombe recovered. And because normally like he played the first game and then they said he had a thumb sprain, and normally for Sixers rookies that usually means like your thumb is on the verge of falling off and that you actually like may lose your arm almost in a traumatic accident over the summer. So shout out to VJ for at least making it through summer league so far. We'll see if he's the first Sixers rookie to be able to break the injury hex here in a little bit. Yeah, I mean, Knipple looks good, man. Like he just and I do got to be honest, I was a little higher on him. I thought he could have gone like as high as like 4 or 5. Like that was a real good pick for Charlotte to be able to slide into that there. I don't like Charlotte is again. They need to keep everybody healthy with namely LaMelo, but even Brandon Miller a little bit too. But if Knipple turns out all right, you start to have the foundation of something there, I feel like,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I think so. I think that you get confidence in your front office's abilities, which it feels like the Hornets have not had in a long time.
No, the Horn. I mean, they've been treading water. They haven't made the playoffs since Kemba, right?
Well, but like even still, like have they? I mean, LaMelo Ball was kind of a very easy hit as far as the draft goes, but like
Yeah.
outside of that, they haven't been a good drafting team at all.
No, they've missed a lot of scenario or just had bad lottery luck. Like that's
Yeah.
the other reality too. Is
Well,
like, I
yeah.
mean, even this year, like they were, I don't know. I mean, they won 19 games last year. I mean, new head
Yeah. Oh,
coach
they
with
got
Charles
ruined by it.
Lee.
But like you still gotta make the picks. And this is the first year that it felt like it was, questionable where they could go, who they could take, and if it was going to pan out. And so far, and again, it's only summer league. He could be awful once he gets onto the regular NBA floor, but it looks like they found a guy who can produce game in and game out and could potentially be starting right off the bat for them.
Yeah, and I mean, look, like again, with the Eastern Conference the way it is, you get any little development, you might mess around and like end up in playing position this year. Like it's pretty wide open. If LaMelo is able to stay healthy, you get to 30, 35 wins, you string it together, you feel like you got a shot. That would at
And,
least get you trending in the right direction, it feels like.
and I don't know about you, but I always get nervous about the second player on a college team when the best player is like a phenom of the sorts.
Right.
Like you look at Anthony Davis and then Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, speaking of the Hornets,
Yeah.
then the Bobcats, where it's like, yeah, this guy's just so good that it really elevates this other guy's game because of how much attention is being put on Anthony Davis. And I was worried that with Cooper Flag, we could see a little bit of the same because Connor Knipa was great for Duke this past season. They used him a lot, and it felt like because of the attention Cooper Flag was always getting, that he was able to leak out and do a lot of things. But so far, it again looks like he's actually going to be able to hold it on his own.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, it's certainly a good, early returns from summer league have been good. Yeah, God, dude, just the East. I keep looking at these standings, and there's just so much. I mean, the Knicks are by far the team I feel the best in the Eastern Conference right now. I don't really think it's close beyond that. I mean, the Cavs, for all the slander I've had about the Cavs, I do think they'll be a good regular season team for sure, and like they'll be competing right there for one of the higher seeds. Like beyond that. Yeah, like if the Sixers stay healthy, I guess Paul George is hurt again already. So sure, all right. Like we'll see if that happens. Miami
I think
post
I think
Jimmy,
I think the Magic are a top 3 team if they're healthy the whole year.
I kind of do too. I'm there too. Like I again
Like you
need to
just look
see
at the
it.
looking at the makeup of the East as you talked about, like if they can stay healthy the whole year, which was the problem last year, right? Franz missed a ton of time, Paolo missed a ton of time.
Yep.
Jalen Suggs was out for the whole entire second half of the season. It's very similar to, like what the Clippers, except they're all young, unfortunately.
Right.
The Clippers
Yeah.
are old and have the injury problem. The Magic have young players and the injury problem. But if they have so many good young players that if they can stay healthy, like that is a team that they competed with the Cavs all year last year. They can compete with the Knicks. They competed with the Knicks all year last year. I think that they could be a team that could be a top 3 team and competing for a top spot in that East. But they have to stay healthy.
Yeah. It's I mean, realistically, after the Knicks and the Cavs, who I think I have a little more faith in, it's like you got the Magic, the Sixers, the Celtics and Pacers are still gonna be competitive. They're just not gonna like have that as much. I mean, Detroit, honestly, like I think Detroit, if they pick up where they were, are still right there. I think they're in that mix. The sneaky one is Atlanta too. I really like. I've said this in the past few weeks, but like it feels they've just surrounded Trae Young with a bunch of good defenders, and I'm a little intrigued to see that honestly, and let Trae be able to just do what he does on offense and not have to worry about getting killed on the other end. So.
So I'm actually very I think a lot of people are going to be sleeping on the Celtics, and I think they're going to be right up there again this year. I think that when you watch them play, there's a lot of ball stopping with Jason Tatum,
Mhm.
and the offense doesn't really flow super clean because of how dynamic of a player he is and how great he is in ISO and everything like that. But when he's out, this was a team that was like 10-2, I think, when he was out. Like they were still a good team without him. And Jaylen Brown seems to play a lot more free when he's out. Now losing Drew Holiday and Chris Stapps will be interesting, but you get a guy in Anthony Simmons who's really good too, and I think very underrated, having been hidden in Portland for a long time now. So I'm not totally ready to sell the Celtics down the river yet. I wouldn't be surprised if they're like a 5-6 spot, but like I also would not be surprised if they're right up there again.
Yeah, I mean, if JB goes off, I think they'll have the chance. I mean, I did like the Simons pick up for them sincerely. I think he'll give them a punch that they need. Obviously, a lot of their depth was great last year. Namely Peyton Pritchard, sixth man of the year. I feel like it was his breakout campaign. They're losing a lot of guys, and so I think that's like, you're going to lose out. You're going to lose KP. You're going to lose Drew Holiday. Like, you know, Derek White is still there. That's great. He's healthy. He's going to do his thing. But yeah, I think best case scenario, they're like a 4. Maybe a 3, you get them up there, but like I don't think they'll have the firepower to win anything beyond like a first round series. If they win it past the second round series, I think it's such a great like overachieve post Tatum. Because you're right. I mean, it does get the ISO at points with Tatum and where it kind of stops, but also like Tatum is Tatum, man. Like
Yeah. Oh yeah. No.
when they get there, like he's just the guy. Like when he's a superstar, they are the best team. It feels like they're the best team at points. So, I don't know. Either way, it was certainly a lot different scenario if it was in the Western Conference. I know that. And we'll see. I mean, teams are again one move away. Somebody makes the move out east, and it really can change things, shake things up a little bit here. We will see what happens. Thank you everybody for listening to this episode of the Drive and Dish NBA podcast. Appreciate you guys as always. Leave us a review on iTunes, good or bad. I'll read them on the podcast. If you anywhere else you can find a podcast, you can find us. Of course, watch the show on YouTube. Just search Driving Dish NBA podcast. CC, you got the Blue Jays shirt on. Like your boys are cooking right now. First place in the AL East. Vladdy's re-signed and happy. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't watched a single Blue Jays game this year unless they played the Phillies. So like, you got to fill me in on what's working. But I mean, now post All-Star break, like this is the real point of the MLB season. Like it's starting to get meaningful now. Like, how do you feel like your guys are set up going into the second half?
I don't know. I don't know. This is all very, very new to me. I don't normally watch extremely meaningful baseball games this early in the season. I don't know how to get excited because I'm just always scared that it's going to fall apart.
Yeah.
But they have the second best record in the AL. They've won the most series out of any other team in Major League Baseball this entire season. They're on a best home win streak, 11 straight games, longest in franchise history. Like there's just new stats every day that they're doing that they've never done in the history of their team before. So I'm like super excited and super nervous and just have no idea what to do because I don't know what winning baseball is until it's like 4 weeks before the playoffs and they go on an incredible tear like they did in 2015.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good division too. Obviously, Boston's really been picking up here in the last few weeks. The Yankees are the Yankees. The Rays have been,
I'm never
a little
looking
closer around
down in
500.
the standings. I'm never looking down. Like what is happening?
It's a fun place to be. And I mean, look, the Phillies are in first right now. It's a little bit closer in the division. I think there are different reasons that I'm not as confident or having fun, but that's more of just like because they've been, kind of competitive here the last few years and have been disappointing since the World Series run. Yeah, I mean, look, if they're maintaining a lead, which again, like you look at the standings, the Yankees are 6-4 in their last 10, the Sox are 7-3. You got to feel good if they're able to ride that the rest of the way. I mean, like you said, only one win behind the Tigers right now, 2 ahead of the Astros. I mean, they're regardless, no matter what, just even with the wild card, they're in such a good spot to make the playoffs. I mean, with 3 now, I mean, 2 of them could very well come out of the East, honestly. So
It's how
We'll
it
see.
always goes.
Yeah, it's been a long time since winning baseball in Toronto. I mean, Toronto would probably, as a four-sport city, or do they have four? Yeah,
Yeah.
hockey? No, well, no, well, there's no football. Obviously, NFL it's a little different. Like,
Oh yeah.
to be honest, I
Yeah.
don't know how the Argonauts have done. Like, I know they have a CFL team. I don't know where they I can't say I'm up on that 100%. But I mean, you would probably be talking about Toronto as like more of like having a drought, as like a tortured franchise, because like obviously the Maple Leafs arguably the most tortured hockey team, given that how much money they spend and the fact that they never win. The Jays won back to back in the 90s, but it's been, since 93 for that. Who were the Raptors? Raptors, they held it down, winning that title in 2019. So I don't know. We shall see. Hopefully, hopefully the
Stadium's
boys keep it
rocking every
on.
game. It's so weird.
It's a fun
Like
stadium
it's
too.
never supposed to be this full.
Well, I said my buddy Sherman was up there the other a few weeks ago, and like I always forget too that like you have such a good view of the Needle right there, like the CN Tower. You can just like get like right from your seats if you're on the third baseline, just look up and it's right there. It's definitely it's a really cool optic.
If you've ever been up in it, they've got a glass floor up there that looks directly down into the stadium. It's
That's
crazy.
sick.
It's so cool.
I've never been to Toronto. Would definitely love to go at some point. I mean,
I'm trying to stay at the hotel in the stadium. It's on my bucket list.
I mean, listen, when you guys come up north, if you guys want to go to Canada, you tell me. I'm a lot closer to Toronto than you are. So listen, we can make something happen. We'll let you know how that turns out. In the meantime, thank you everybody for listening to that episode. Justin will be back on, I guess, Saturday is when we're planning to record. It's Tuesday now, but Justin will be back in a few days. We'll hear about how his vacation was, and we will talk to you guys soon.